My friends, hello. In the United Kingdom, we're being told about water rationing for climate reasons, aren't we? I'm going to say sorry to you. When you start talking about water rationing in a country where it rains all the time, it's true that it's hard to believe. It kind of clicked in my head. So they're telling us about water rationing because the climate has warmed and water has evaporated. But let me share the reality. It's only been 34 years since we've built new water reservoirs in this country. We stopped investing in public infrastructure. Worse, we're actually plundering them. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the economy of plunder and extraction, which you can also see in France, you can see it in Belgium, and a bit less in Germany. But a lot of European countries are heading straight into an extractive economy. I'll tell you a few examples and give you some indicators before getting into the subject. I've decided, I make videos, but videos are just a small part of my time. I spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day writing. So I've decided to launch a Substack account. I'll give you the link. Sign up. I'll share things with you, excerpts from my future books, ideas, all that, which I can sometimes explain in more detail in writing than I can verbally. So you'll find the link in the video description and the pinned comment as is customary. Anyway, let's get back to the topic. How does it work? How does a plunder and extraction economy work? It starts when a country no longer believes in its future and when it's surrounded by forces that are there, that latch onto it, just to try to plunder its substance, just to take the lifeblood of this country and then pour it out, right? In the form of greenbacks into camps abroad. I'll just give you an example, maybe. It's a simple example, as they say, but there's never such a thing as a simple example. There are always examples that are very revealing, that carry a rather extraordinary symbolism. You know that in the United Kingdom, a large part of our spending goes into investments. I wouldn't say investments, that's not the word. It's spending without any return. Spending without any return in terms of value. For example, we pay road taxes, congestion charges, parking fees, parking fines, fines for... because we turned right when it wasn't allowed. Just like that, right? In fact, more and more is being taken from our, if you will, from our income, which is taken for things for which we get nothing in return. You see what I mean? When you go to the bakery, you give, I don't know, €1 or €2, you leave with a baguette or a croissant, whatever. You spent money, but you got something in return. Now, think about all the expenses you make without getting anything in return. All of that is money that's being taken away. Today, we have Australian pension funds. On the other side of the world, at the other end, well, Australian pension funds receive hundreds of millions every year because they've invested, they've bought policing and parking companies. That means a Brit. He parks in his own country, and the moment he parks his car, he's paying people on the other side of the world. Because it has become such a predatory and exploitative society, there are people abroad who think it's great. They're going to latch onto it and take the money. So this money that's being spent, the country gets nothing in return. All right? Society gets nothing in return. The person who pays this fine, well, they don't get anything in return either, right? It's money that's being plundered from this country. Normally, I think that today we should develop strategies, legal strategies, even constitutional strategies if necessary, to clamp down on this kind of predation. But coming back to the water and reservoir story I opened this video with, let me tell you. Water was privatized in the United Kingdom. Each region, well, there isn't much competition actually, because sometimes there is, but most often one water company will cover a region. And the water company is private, with private shareholders. So we sold them for next to nothing public infrastructure that was built with public money over many years, actually over generations. So once these water companies took control, they already operate in territories where they face no competition. Recently, our bill was increased by 30%. Well, that's it. Why is it raining 30% less? Is the water? I mean, I can understand. We can understand when fuel prices go up, because of Iran, OPEC, Saudi Arabia. I get that. I really do. But water, what's going on? Is the pipe demanding 30% more money to let it through? Is there 30% less water in the lakes? What's happening? Is it raining 30% less? Actually, it's twice that. Actually, you see, it's just an extraction technique, all right? Now, we're going to get into the insidious part, because taking, increasing, all that, yes, we know about it, but there's something more insidious than that. What's more insidious is that you recognize the extraction technique when we're dealing with short-term logic. We're not thinking about sustainability. I told you that in the past 34 years, we haven't built any reservoirs. But let me add something else. We've closed half of them. Half of the existing large reservoirs have been closed. Why? When you have a company, when you have, for example, a water company that belongs to the public, that belongs to the state, it's there to provide water. It's not there to provide returns for shareholders. It's there to make sure everyone has water and at the best price, etc. With a private company, you'll sell it the infrastructure. Why would it go and repair the reservoir? It doesn't care about the reservoir. The reservoir, they're just going to extract value from it. And how do you extract the value? It's by overusing it without maintaining it, without any maintenance at all. Why? Because if we inject money for maintenance, that's money lost for the shareholders. That's money we can't distribute as dividends. So what do? We use it. And when it starts to fall apart, when it starts to leak, we shut it down. That's it. There you go. And then after that, we do the same thing with the next one, the next one, the next one. So in reality, you realize that mathematically, it's the public infrastructure that's overused and whose value, with no maintenance or anything, whose value is taken away in the form of greenbacks. So we're focused on the short term. We're not thinking about sustainability. There's also something else very interesting. There's a company here. It distributed 72 billion in dividends to its shareholders. More often, the shareholders are abroad, pension funds, stuff like that. It is in debt to the tune of 60 billion. We have companies that do this. So these companies, they don't maintain the network. They don't maintain the infrastructure. The network is shrinking drastically. So listen here, while the population is increasing, the network capacity is decreasing. On top of the aging infrastructure, one of the results of this aging is that we lose several billion, yes, billion, not million, liters of water per day due to leaks. We have massive leaks. Sometimes we have leaks bigger than the jet d'eau in Geneva. We have leaks regularly, leaks where the water shoots very high into the sky, and it takes days before we can more or less patch them up, and then it keeps leaking, okay? So what happens? We have these financial setups where the company goes into debt to distribute value to the shareholders. The shareholder becomes really the alpha and the omega, the most important thing in the equation, not the consumer. The consumer was the most important back when the company belonged to the state. But today that's over. So now that we have a lot of people, the infrastructure is outdated, it's falling apart, it's undersized. What do? Well, what we do is we raise the prices, because now we're giving people lessons, aren't we? We're going to lecture people. We're going to tell them, well, yes, it's your fault. There you go. You're guilty. There are too many of you. Maybe one day I should make a video about Malthusianism. I know I've talked about it once. But we'll have to come back to that, because we're constantly operating within neo-Malthusian thinking. And actually, Malthusianism is about seeing every problem that way. That's why the elites like Malthusianism, because the idea behind it, if you will, is that all the problems we have don't come from plundering, don't come from corruption, don't come from that. It's because there are too many of us. So today, now that the system is undersized, we don't look at the plundering they've done, but instead we focus on the fact that in their view, there are too many of us. There are too many of us. So how do they punish us? How do they force us to change our behavior, as they say, and adopt more respectful and more responsible attitudes, right? More eco-friendly. What do? Well, they're going to punish us through the bill. That's it. Water is much more expensive now. Use less. Take fewer showers, right? Don't wash your clothes. In France, remember, there was recently a campaign. How many times can I wear this shirt? How many times can I wear these pants? 85 times without washing, right? So really, while other nations are creating drone taxis and are coming up with unimaginable things in terms of technology, comfort and progress, etc. Well, in Europe, who would have thought today they're heading towards misery, even to the point of affecting water? Alors, so, I mean, if we can't manage, and that's what's shocking, there are countries that used to be deserts that don't have water problems today. Europe, which is probably one of the wettest continents on Earth, has water problems because of plundering. It's not because of nature, it's not because of a shortage, it's because of a mentality of plundering at every level that has taken over Europe. That's the issue. So the last effect that comes into play is added on top. The last effect that comes into play is this. Public infrastructure is taken over, bought for next to nothing. The companies that own it will loot it, squander it, as I explained, down to the last bit, right? And after that, once the crisis hits, when we start having water cuts, when water once again becomes a class-based privilege, maybe we'll end up like in the Middle Ages. We'll need a donkey and some jugs. We'll have to go to the lake, bring back water and put potassium permanganate in it to drink it. I don't know. Maybe. I'm just speculating. Well, what we're going to do is buy back these companies. That means the public is going to buy back companies that are now running at a loss, that are now in debt, that now need billions in investments. Okay? So that's the idea. I invest in it, I bring it up to top level, I clean up its finances, I sell it to the private sector, they extract all the value, and then they give it back to me. And when they give it back to me, there you go, I would have done the same. We start the cycle again, right? As long as there aren't any serious protections against that. But there won't be any in the near future. Because very often we see a phenomenon where we expect regulators or politicians to take action. But very often, they themselves are in on it, though not in the sense that they're like that. Like the villains in James Bond with big rings and a cat, etc. No, that's not the idea. It's simply that they look out for their own personal interests. When a country no longer believes in its future, everyone thinks about their own personal interests. It's now or never. The idea of a country, of a nation, even of a future, no longer exists. You have to strike now, get everything you can now. That's the mentality that's going to take hold. And that's how it is today. So you're going to find the people who could potentially protect the nation from this problem, from these plagues, from this kind of capture. Well, they won't do anything. Why? Because once they've finished their work at the ministry or elsewhere, you'll find them as senior executives at the same companies they were supposed to regulate. You see? So here we are. I mean, I don't know what the solution is. What really is the solution? In reality, if you look closely, we're on the downward slope of capitalism. That is, if you look at the 1960s, for example, when it was the upward slope of capitalism, they would give you a car, vacations, paid leave, everyone goes on vacation, the aunt, the grandmother, all of them, and then we all go, that's it. We rent a vacation house or a cabin or something like that. It's nice. A microwave for everyone, right? An oven, a color TV and everything, right? That's the rising phase. It means it's a part where he's going to bribe with consumer goods, with food items, you see. Afterwards, when you can't buy them anymore, because at first they're not expensive, but very quickly they'll make sure you can't get them anymore. That's the reality, that's the truth. But we have a solution for you. We'll give you credit cards, we'll lend you money. Here, we'll lend you money. The problem is that after a while, you have a nation of people in debt. And then after a while, I'm going to say people get into debt, more and more debt. At some point, they can't consume at all anymore. All right? And from there, it's a downward slope. It's collapse. That's what we're seeing with a very clear acceleration since 2008. A true acceleration where everything is taken from you. We're playing a game where if you lose everything. Your microwave, car, vacations, everything. That's basically what's happening now. I'll go into it in much more technical detail another time. There you go. Thank you, my friends, for listening to this video. This was probably, I don't know if it's the last or one of the last from this place. All right? You don't get that when I say I'm leaving England. It's not just for show. That's it. Anyway, I really like this place, but I think that's it. All good things come to an end, as they say. Thank you for listening to this video up to this point. Remember to subscribe on Substack, right? And then see you when I see you. See you very soon.